I am 18 plus years into my journey with MS, and I can say with 100% certainty that exercise is essential for managing my symptoms. I'm living well with MS, and one of the pillars of wellness in my plan is exercise. In today's video, I'm going to share a bit about the history of research with exercise and MS, the evidence that shows how it can help us, and tips on how we can implement exercise to improve our symptoms and possibly prevent progression. Sound good? You may have heard me quote a review in other videos that says, exercise may be the single most effective non-pharmacological symptomatic treatment for multiple sclerosis. It's from a review entitled Exercise Training for Multiple Sclerosis, a narrative review of history, benefits, safety, guidelines, and promotion from 2021. Typically, when I do a video on a certain topic like exercise, I read and reference several studies. Today is going to be a little different. Today, I'm going to dive deep into what this review states only. It's one of my favorite papers, and I felt it deserved its own video. It was published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health and is out of Australia, and I'll put a link to it in the description below. They looked at the historical and current literature about exercise in multiple sclerosis and highlight the ever-strengthening body of research indicating that exercise is safe and effective for improving symptoms of multiple sclerosis. Further, exercise training may be necessary for reducing disease progression. A comment with a yes please below if you want to improve your symptoms and possibly reduce disease progression. In the introduction, they state that upwards of 50% of people with MS visit with a neurologist annually for ongoing care, and 25% of people with MS further utilize physiotherapy and occupational therapy. That means that 75% of us are not using physical or occupational therapy. Back to the opening statement. Exercise may be the single most effective non-pharmacological symptomatic treatment for multiple sclerosis. We need to change this statistic. We need to get moving and to utilize physical and occupational therapy, but more on that later. The paper talks about how neurologists and the care teams can help people with MS with an exercise prescription. Wouldn't it be great to have our doctors or a member of our health team hand us a prescription with the exercises we should be doing regularly along with the prescription for the drugs? I mean, if it really is the most effective symptomatic treatment after medication, it's kind of a no-brainer. The paper goes on to say the rate of physical activity in people with MS has not changed in over 30 years, despite expanding evidence of benefits of this behavior. This boggles my mind. There's ongoing and new research showing that exercise can help us, yet physical activity in people with MS hasn't changed in 30 years? In fact, since the COVID pandemic, exercise levels may have declined even further in people with MS. Throughout history, exercise has been used to help people with MS, but there was not always universal support for it. History shows that some doctors told patients that exercise may harm them, so they should avoid it and focus more on rest. Then came clinical trials. One of the first clinical trials on MS and exercise began in 1986. Wait, what? Hold up, 1986? Is anyone else stunned by this? They've only been doing clinical trials on exercise and MS for the past 38 years? Wowza, that seems almost unbelievable to me. Is that unbelievable to you? Let me know in the comments below. For context, MS was described back in the 14th century, and John Martin Charcot is often credited with detailing it as a disease in 1868. Since 1986, there's been a lot of studies, and they show that there are multiple benefits to exercising with MS. In fact, there's now more evidence for the benefits of exercise in MS than any other neurological condition. What can exercise help with? Good question. There's evidence that it can help with improving physical fitness, walking mobility, strength, balance, cognition, fatigue, depressive symptoms, quality of life, sleep quality, cardiovascular and metabolic comorbidities, reduce relapse rates, and can slow disability progression. How many of you want improvement with all these? Give me a heck yeah in the comments if you do. One of the exciting statistics reported in this paper was that in another review where they looked at 26 randomized controlled trials of exercise training in MS, they found that the relapse rates across the studies were 4.6% for those with the exercise condition and 6.3% for those in the control conditions. This corresponds to approximately 27% lower relapse rate for exercise training versus non-exercise control conditions. That is almost as effective as some of the MS drugs out there. Again, I have to wonder why we're not getting a prescription for exercise along with our prescription for DMTs at the time of diagnosis. And not only that, the prescription needs to be evaluated regularly. In this paper, they suggest adjustment in exercise prescription should be treated similarly to adjustment in pharmacological prescription, with an annual review involving a multidisciplinary healthcare team utilized to optimize exercise-associated positive outcomes. We should be talking with our doctors every year about what exercises we're doing and if we should be changing those exercises. We should also be getting evaluated every year. Did any of you go through an evaluation process when you were diagnosed? I did. It was a 3-hour appointment that included a visit with a physical, occupational, and speech therapist. I didn't get another evaluation that was that in-depth for 3 years, and I had to ask for it myself. So how much should we be exercising, and what kinds of exercise? That depends. It depends on where we're at with our MS and if we have any current limitations. But this paper did include current guidelines. In 2013, North American researchers met, reviewed the literature, and came up with guidelines. And in 2019, an international group of researchers met and expanded upon the guidelines. For those with mild to moderate MS, they recommend getting general aerobic activity 2 to 3 times a week, advanced aerobic activity 5 times a week, and strength training 2 to 3 times a week. Oh shoot, I might need to up my game a little bit. For those with severe disability, recommendations include breathing exercises every second day, daily flexibility exercise, aerobic exercise and functional strength exercise, upper and or lower extremities, every second day, and core activation exercises twice daily. I'll also include a link to another study that has a table breaking down recommendations by EDSS score in the description below. Of course, all of these are just guidelines and should be discussed with your doctor and or your physical therapist. For those with mild to moderate MS, some of the options for exercise types that are recommended are arm cycling, seated shadow boxing, walking, cycling, using an elliptical trainer, running, riding a bike, weight training machines, free weights, and cable pulleys. Personally, I like to walk daily, and I highly recommend getting a dog. I'll put a link above and below about the benefits of having a dog for those with MS and chronic illness. I also get great benefits from doing yoga. I really feel like doing yoga consistently was key to helping me regain function after I developed foot drop. I do weight training at the gym and at home using online exercise programs, and I dance in a Zumba class. The dance class involves using our own body weight, light weights, resistance bands, and there are songs that have jumps in them to help us build strong bones. What kinds of exercise do you do? Let me know in the comments below. It's so important that we include regular and consistent exercise as part of how we manage our MS and its symptoms. We're not yet to the point where we get a written prescription from our doctors, but it's clear we need to consider having a regular and consistent exercise routine that includes general aerobic activity, advanced aerobic activity, and strength training. It's particularly important as we age and lose muscle mass. I have 3 tips for you to help with this. 1, at every appointment with our doctors, we need to talk about exercises and ask if we should be seeing a physical therapist or occupational therapist to help. 2, check with your insurance on how often you can get a full evaluation with a physical, occupational, and speech therapist to see if you're eligible for physical therapy, and then take advantage of it. And 3, print out the table from the study with the recommendations and put it where you'll see it every day to remind yourself to do the exercises in the guidelines. No one can do exercises for us. We need to do them. Find activities that you enjoy. Walking the dog, dancing, lifting weights, swimming, taking classes, then schedule them. Do them like they're your job. Exercise really needs to be done. It's an investment in our health and in our futures. This review included in the conclusions that research over the past 30 years has underscored a vital role of exercise in symptom management and potential disease modification. What will you do to increase or change the way you exercise with MS? Let me know in the comments below. To see more on exercise and the benefits of it, watch these videos next. I really love the community we're building here and would love to see it grow. To support this channel, please share this video, hit the like button, and subscribe. This will help us to reach more people. Thanks. Until next time, be well.